I absolutely love and adore Chopin's music. This is a great composer. And I know I'm not alone in loving his music. If you are a pianist who is studying his music, you would be very wise to listen to my advice. You need to study from the best edition out there. And in my personal view, there is one out there which is the best, bar none, no question in my mind. Chopin was a very complicated person. His music is very complicated. When you talk about composers who were very demanding of how their music would be performed, a name like Beethoven comes to mind. And do I love Beethoven? I do. But Beethoven's music and the way that it is presented poses far less issues than Chopin's. Because, for example, Chopin wrote a composition which, the same composition, would be sent to different countries with slight and sometimes major differences. Differences in pedaling, slurring, fingering, the articulations, sometimes tempo markings, and so on. And so you don't really have too much of that in the music of, for example, Beethoven. And as important as it is to study from an urtext edition, the problem is that, some of these editions, which I will go through, are urtext. But the research is just not there for all of them. And part of that, like I said, is because Chopin, a project like the one that I will talk about at the end, my favorite edition, a project like that is not a joke. Because again, Chopin's music is extremely complex, and he was a complex personality to begin with. So, as I go through these editions, I just want to be very clear. I own all of these editions. I study from them. They have their place. But if I had to pick one, it's none of these. And I just want to go through them, and I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings. But if I do, you're just going to have to deal with it, because I'm telling you the truth. So, to save you time, I'll go through this very quickly. I have Chopin from Schott. That's a no. Connemara Music Budapest for Chopin. I'm sorry, no. Peters. No. Durant. No. Good edition here, Kalmus. No. The Concerto. Schirmer. No. The Alfred Cortot. A lot to learn here. The edition. No. Bärenreiter. I love the edition. For Chopin, I'm sorry, no. The Dover edition. If you want a bang for your buck, in general, Dover editions are wonderful. But no. Chopin, Alfred. No. Good edition in general. And this is going to be a little bit tougher now. Henle. No. No. Paderewski edition. Hey, if I haven't hurt anybody's feelings, I might now. No. I'm sorry. No. If I have to pick one edition, It's this. The National Edition. PWM. The research here is, I sense the passion behind it. I can tell this is not for money. There is love and dedication here. What you see in front of you are the 37 volumes. This is all that Chopin wrote. 37 volumes divided in two halves. The one in gold, volumes 1 through 24, are all the works published during the composer's lifetime. And the one in white here, all the works published after his death. And there are also some supplementary works here, some arrangements, for example, the two piano versions of the piano concertos. So my first advice, as you buy them, for example, here I have Mazurkas. These are the posthumous Mazurkas. And then the ones published during his lifetime. So don't be confused. They're not the same. They're very different. What can I tell you? First, I want to say this. My first encounter with the National Edition was when I was learning the Chopin Études, and I had many editions, like I told you. That's how I study. I opened Opus 10 number 3. I opened page 25, and I took a look at measures 30, 31, and 34 and 35. And I just could not believe what I was seeing. And my first impression was, this is the worst edition I've ever read from, because that is just so off. And that's usually how you respond to truth, by the way. Truth is like, it like immediately divides. When you tell the truth, it divides people, right? And so I was wise enough to not just like throw it to the garbage. I had to just go to this wonderful little booklet that they provide at the end of each one of these volumes. So 37 of them, every single one of them has it. Do not throw this away. This is just like a gold mine. It has performance commentaries, gives you all sorts of advice on how to perform the piece successfully. And my favorite aspect of this is the advice they give on ornamentation. And then it gives you source commentary. In other words, for example, how do we justify writing what we wrote in those measures that many of you are going to raise your eyebrows when you look at that? And so once you see that these people are not just writing things to make money, they're after the truth. They want to write what Chopin wanted you to play. Or I should say they want to print. Then you start to think differently. And you know, it didn't stop there. Then I opened the second ballade, the middle part of the ballade. Again, I was shocked at some of the... We're talking about notes now. We're not talking about small things like the size of the slur or the size of the accent, which they go as far as to even depict that as clearly as possible. We're talking about notes, harmonies that are way off. And I remember particularly playing the second ballade for my teacher and using this edition, and she had a hard time. And I understand. I love my teacher. I didn't argue with her out of the sheer respect I've always had for her. But the reason I'm saying this, many of you might react the same way. You might say, well, my teacher said no. Or Arthur Rubinstein doesn't play those ornaments like that. Or Horowitz doesn't play that version of the Fantasy Impromptu. What do you mean that's not the version that Chopin intended to be published or to be performed? You know, the composition is unpublished. Or the second sonata, when Michelangelo takes the repeat, he goes to the fifth measure. Others, of course, they're smart enough skip the repeat. For example, one of my most favorite pianists, my teacher's teacher, Jakob Flier, he skips the repeat of the second sonata because it doesn't make sense to go to the fifth measure, straight back to B flat minor like that. And then you look at what these guys have published, there is no repeat sign. I mean, these are like, we're not talking about minor stuff. We're like talking about structural things. And to me, form and structure is king. I mean, after tempo, form in many ways is the most powerful thing that holds the composition together. I want to take a quick second. I want to say that I'm not getting paid for this video. I'm not the kind of a guy that you're gonna buy. I'm not for sale. Never have been. But when I see something good, I have to praise it. And this is great. This in front of me, this is great. I can sit down as somebody who loves Chopin, and if I'm playing the fifth Polonaise, which has no metronome mark, I can quickly go to some of their notes where they say, you know, Chopin published only 3 times a Polonaise tempo, and it's always a quarter equals 96. And that is in Opus 2, I think Opus 3, the cello and piano Polonaise, as well as Opus 22. And that is not to say that every single Polonaise is quarter equals 96, but at least it gives me a reference point to say that, you know, a Polonaise in the so-called maestoso or allegro maestoso is at 96, and I can move from there. And it's all at my fingertips. I don't have to go to a library or anything like that. It's all here, published with the same people, with the same team, by the same people. I also want to mention that you will see that in the channel, Chopin is going to be a focal point. And there are going to be many videos upcoming about Chopin's music, not just performance, but also theoretical analysis. And I'm going to use these beautiful scores. And this is a very, very special privilege. In January 2022, I reached out to the team in Poland, and they're probably sick and tired of hearing from me because of the amount of times that I emailed them and called them. And it doesn't help that I don't speak Polish. But after 5 months of basically them getting tired of me, the word reached to the president of the national edition, and they gave me a full permission on the May of 2022, from memory 26th of May, to use all of their scores for my upcoming videos. And I just want to say thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. I hope I do justice to your work by showcasing your beautiful scores. But more importantly, I hope that in my future Chopin recordings, I play in such a way that would bring a smile to the face of my beloved composer, Chopin. May God bless each and every one of you, and may you have a wonderful time practicing from these beautiful scores. Until next time.